Make sure this is on. Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakakadash, double honors, the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who are teaching this truth in sincerity, and shout out to the Akims out there in the four corners of the earth proclaiming this truth. Bracha the Yahweh, Bracha the Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakakadash, Brakatam. Wars, rumors of wars. Rumor. Ground troops to try to invade Karg Island. That's a rumor that's been going around, and there's getting some affirmations that, yeah, that's exactly where the military is headed. And like everything else, though, kind of a review as Full Spectrum goes into, as he gets things just a little bit later than everybody else does, as this video proves. But nonetheless, just looking at everything, putting it into perspective, and where you should be, right? You know, time is now to repent. Because you know this is World War III. You know this is going to escalate into a nuclear war. You've already heard that Israeli state can't take much more, and then they're going to use a nuclear option. So, you know, all the rumors are there, and the ushering in of the MOTB through lockdowns, through field rationing, which is already happening in Alcatralia, aka Australia. Yeah, they have field rationing there already. So it's already happening. And there's food shortages everywhere. And there's less staff everywhere too, you know, as the government is still shut down. You know, DHS is still shut down. You have ISIS popping up everywhere, because ISIS is going to replace everything. It's going to be the new security, ISIS, you know. So, there you have it.
The International Atomic Energy Agency has been informed that another projectile or series of projectiles have been launched at the Iranian nuclear power plant. According to Iran, there was limited damages and the condition of the plant is operating at nominal specs, but there is a suspicion that maybe something larger is playing out behind the scenes here. Donald Trump has sent thousands of American soldiers stationed and ready to enter into the country of Iran in preparation of a phase of conflict that will have American servicemen go in there and secure Iranian enriched uranium. Now, right now, we have a back and forth between the U.S. government and the Iranians that suggests that there are peace talks that are being discussed.
Which we know is not true.
The oil companies, they have each said that the disruption in the Strait of Hormuz will take 4 months just to get their oil supply back online. Australia is already having gas pump closures.
There it is.
And they're already having limitations on how much fuel that you can use when you fill up your vehicle.
You got it.
The International Energy Agency has told the entire world to prepare for what is being described as COVID-style lockdowns. Limitation of transportation, restrictions on what you can do inside of your own house.
Yep.
And we have a militarized police force that is ready to come out and make sure that the streets of multiple countries are operating safely in continuity of government guidelines. Donald Trump is said right now to be in a phase of back and forth between the American government and the Israelis, because Israel does not want this to be another Obama give Iran everything they want just for the promise of enriched uranium being ceased. Israel wants Iran decimated. Folks, we have a lot of videos to cover today, including this 14-point peace plan that was offered by the U.S. government, and here it is in a simplified form. All sanctions lifted against Iran. Iran will give up its complete nuclear weapons program, and it will get assistance in building a civil nuclear program. Now, I've talked with some strategists who have discussed on the nuclear enrichment level that this would be a Americanized or even maybe a Russian oversight group. Iran will have no access to their own radiation. Iran will only have access not to their own nuclear materials, but it will be through a Western-controlled government. Now, if that's the case, I think that it could happen. Iran will stop funding their proxies, the Strait of Hormuz will remain open, and missiles will be discussed later. Now, missiles was one of the biggest issues here because they had no idea Iran held back 60% of their long-range missile capabilities. They thought that we could just go in, take out whatever was visible on satellite imagery, and it would be over. They would crumble. But that simply wasn't the case, and we saw that they buried, actually, up to 60% of their long-range missiles, not just in deep underground military bunkers. No, they also buried them in cases of 1 and 2 silos throughout the entire Iranian landscape. This means that Israel is under threat of complete annihilation.
Yep, and like everything else, though, you've heard the rumors of the Samson option. As we get into this some more, man, you know, hey, what an exciting time to be here, you know, as we look at this, right? But here's what's happening in the world economy, right? Because everything's controlled by oil. Bangladesh hikes jet fuel prices by 80%. 80% up. Dhaka cited volatility in the global market linked to the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran as the trigger for the move. Bangladesh enacted an 80% hike in jet fuel prices, a second upward revision in March. National regulator announced on Tuesday. The Bangladesh Energy Regulatory Commission cited volatility in global prices amid the Mideast conflict as the reason for the move. We had to adjust the jet fuel price for the second time this month, considering the international fuel price rate, which has shot up, Burke chairman was quoted by AFP as saying. So, some people are actually profiting off of this while others are suffering. It does, pretty much so. What you pay at the pump is still affected by this war. And, it's just going to continue to get worse because, hey, while they're telling you that everything's going good here, that Iran is talking, well, that's just simply not the case. They're delusional. They're delusional because there's no trust. And if they were going to talk, it would be to Vance, not to Trump. Trump is wanted by Iran. Trump can't be trusted. He's a loose cannon. TSA agents sleeping in cars, getting evicted for missing rent payments due to shutdown. Acting TSA administrator highlights plight of unpaid TSA workers. TSA workers struggling financially have been working unpaid amid the latest government shutdown. They should have found another job. And have been evicted from their homes and forced to sleep in their cars. Acting TSA administrator testified Wednesday. So, like everything else, this is fucking hilarious. Watching them fall. Well, you're a regime that bombs schools for fun. Your president says it's fun.
Notices, had
what do
their
you think it
cars
do to you?
repossessed and utilities shut off, lost their child care, defaulted on loans, damaged their credit line, and drained their retirement savings.
But your school didn't get
Some
bombed.
are sleeping in their cars, selling their blood and plasma, and taking on second jobs to make ends meet, all while being expected to perform at the highest level when in uniform to protect the traveling public.
You ain't protecting nothing,
security
you
officer
piece
at
of
Reagan
shit.
National Airport recently said, "I just want Congress to pay me for the job I am doing."
Yeah, you grope people and you do so much illegal shit. There always needed to be a reform there. Well, you already see that it's amped up because ISIS is now there. More than 450 TSA agents quit during DHS shutdown. More than 450 Transportation Security Administration agents, dicks, quit since the start of the partial Department of Homeland Security shutdown. So, like everything else, President Trump taking action to deploy hundreds of ISIS members who are currently funded by Congress to airports being adversely impacted. This will help boost the TSA efforts to keep our skies. Yeah, you got a bunch of fucking loose cannons over there, right? But that's what Trump is, right? Just why not send it? Why not send ISIS everywhere, right? These meth addicts, man. Because that's what they are, man. I mean, these fucking people, man, the way they fucking snort fucking crank, they're all on crank and just fucking being the pieces of shit they always were, just like their president, he does a lot of fucking crank. Israeli state to occupy southern Lebanon, defense minister. Hundreds of thousands of people will be barred from returning to their homes until Hezbollah is removed, Katz has said. So Katz ain't dead. There was rumor that he got killed in the strikes, retaliatory strikes. He didn't get killed. It's looking like King Bibi is alive, even though he doesn't really show his face, right? Well, whether he's dead or not, the Israeli terrorists still exist. The least of the flock, it's not going to stop until they're all dead. And only Yahweh Shai, when he comes back, can do that. The least of the flock shall draw them out, right? Israeli state launched military operations against Hezbollah numerous occasions since 1978 and occupied southern Lebanon from 1982 to 2000. So there's really no difference there. The Israelis, they take what doesn't belong to them. They've been doing that from day one. Saudis bypass Hormuz as oil exports from Yamba surge toward 5 million target. A week ago, when fears that the Strait of Hormuz world blockade would mean a permanent collapse in oil supply, they have since been seen that Iran is allowing friendly ships to cross the strait, especially if they grease the toll keeper with $2 million per crossing, hit a fever pitch and pushed the price of Brent to $120 per barrel. We said that Saudi Arabia has already revived more than half of its oil exports via Hormuz bypass. So like everything else though, they have a different type of pipeline that they are running, and you can't really get past Yemen either, but it's looking like they're trying to get past Yemen. Good luck with that, because Yemen will join the fight, and they will shoot at anything in that Red Sea over there. Saudi Arabia, along with the United Arab Emirates, is one of the 2 countries in the region that can divert significant amounts of oil to bypass Hormuz, providing crucial lifeline for supply. So that's why you haven't really seen it affected yet. You've seen some effects, but not to the full extent. But that all can change at any minute, especially if they do something and go gung-ho and actually strike their energy facilities. That could be it. And like everything else, though, this was all predicted, right? You know, as you know, Alex likes to give credit to himself, even though he reads information like we do. But he does give credit to himself that, look, that a full-scale war is going to happen. Well, everybody knew that last year. I mean, it's like a no shit, but it's fun to look at it. After June's strike against Iran's nuclear program, Alex Jones predicted full war will follow. It was just a matter of time, so we'll play some of this if this is it. No. Let's go ahead and play that.
War.
But here we go.
We were all told it was just to get their nuclear sites. It wasn't about regime change. Then, 3 or 4 days later, the guy really running the show, Benjamin Netanyahu, said, no, it's regime change.
Well, at least he's saying it's king, baby.
That they wouldn't get their nuke material. They're not going to have their uranium in those sites. And now they release video over the weekend. Hey, and photos, we shipped it all out weeks ago. Ha, ha, ha. And the media's like, oh, well, sorry, we got to keep bombing forever. They've already gotten the stuff out of the bunkers. People are like, you're a traitor. It's all in there. Trump's got the top intel. We need to strike it. And now, of course, they admit they didn't get any of it. And whether they even got some of it, the neocons don't want it to stop. U.S. aircraft and weapons and ships, missile cruisers, destroyers, aircraft carriers are massing. This is for total war.
Yep. So even he knew that it would be a total war. And that was, you know, I mean, anybody can read the headlines and know that they were they were pretty much going to do, they would pick it up, and that's where we're at right now. Now, like everything else, though, they've been telling you that that Iran wants to talk. Well, here it is. Iran rejects negotiations with the U.S., says Arghashi, who's one of the main speakers for Iran. There's been no negotiations, no matter what Trump says. Oh, well, they don't have the communication like we do. You know, so he was trying to double talk you to make you think that, oh, yeah, they want to talk. Iran ruled out negotiations with the U.S. Foreign Minister Abbas Arghashi stated that Tehran has no intention of entering talks under current conditions. Speaking to state television on Wednesday, so that was just yesterday, Arghashi said that discussing negotiations at this stage would amount to an admission of defeat, stressing that Iran's current policy is to continue the resistance. We have no intention of negotiation. Negotiations have not taken place so far. And I believe our position is based on principles, he said. So like everything else, though. You know, so DC will say that they failed to talk, you know, later. I mean, they're still smoke screening everything, right? They're still gaslighting you into thinking that, oh yeah, they want to talk and that this war is almost over. While they're planning an invasion on Karg Island. Where they're planning to invade Iran itself and actually put boots on the ground. Trump's Iran war lies trigger market swings while media conceals U.S. military failure. You know, and they're going to fail at this next operation too. On the weekend of 21st of March, coinciding with Eid al-Fitr and Nowruz, Persian New Year saw strategic Iranian retaliatory strikes against many sites in the Israeli-occupied territories. On Saturday night, particularly massive destruction occurred in Arad and Dimona, the latter being the site of the occupation's not-so-clandestine nuclear program, when they hit the Israeli nuclear program. Since the U.S.-Israeli war of aggression against Iran began, U.S. President Trump claims Iran military has been degraded and that the war is nearly won. Yeah, that's what he's telling people. Most media outlets publish these claims largely unchallenged, with only minor pushback later. Yet Iran has not shown any stoppages within its military doctrine, with the senior commanders listing that they have flipped the script from a defensive posture to an offensive one. So, like everything else, though. Demands of Iran has put forward. Press TV first report on Wednesday include a complete halt to aggression and assassinations by the enemy, the establishment of concrete mechanisms to ensure that the war is not reimposed on the Islamic Republic, guaranteed and clearly defined payment for war damages and operations, the end of the war across all fronts and for all resistance groups involved throughout the region, and recognition of Iran's sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. A country that has, in Trump's words, lost its military would not be intent on making demands while simultaneously bombing Israeli-American targets across the region. So, like everything else, though, he's he's gaslighting you here, but here we go.
There. Just about everything there is to obliterate, including leadership. The Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone, their anti-aircraft equipment is gone.
You can believe it, but Satan wouldn't lie.
We have nobody even shooting at us.
And there's people that actually believe that shit, right? That the Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone, that everything's been destroyed. Yet, they've been able to respond to just about everything. Trump warns the U.S. will unleash hell against Iran if it doesn't surrender, as rocket strikes kill 2 in the United Arab Emirates. So, yeah, that's today, March 26th. So, here it is. Now he's at least talking like he normally does, right? Because he's got to tell those other people, investors, that, oh, yeah, Iran wants to talk. Well, at least now you're hearing what he's really saying, right? The status of U.S.-Iran talks remain oblique. On Thursday, as Tehran says it is not engaging in negotiations with D.C. to end the war, while President Trump insists the dialogue between the two sides is active. D.C. warned that Iran must accept defeat or the U.S. would unleash hell on the country, as Tehran continues to refuse compliance with D.C.'s demands to surrender. Well, they're not going to surrender. It's a pipe dream, but they want to give you the illusion that, oh yeah, their army's defeated, their Air Force defeated. They want to make a deal. And, that's what Trump's trying to tell everybody. Iran army says grand incursion would be more dangerous and costly for the U.S. Yeah, better get ready, because there's going to be catastrophe everywhere. And we're going to enjoy that. We are enjoying it. The commander of the Iranian Armed Ground Force has warned that the forces will incapacitate the U.S. and Israeli regime if they wage a ground invasion of the country. Brigadier General made the remarks on Thursday during a visit to Iran's borders amid reports that the invading U.S.-Israeli coalition are planning to occupy Karg Island in a bid to force Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz to their vessels. Iranian army forces are standing firm and steadfast on the front lines of defense, and they will incapacitate the enemy, he added. So, like everything else, though, good luck with that, right? But, as this video goes into, it's happening. They're going all in. They're going to go all the way this time. So here comes your oh shit moment. They're going all in. They're going to go all the way this time, Yep. Mandatory suicide massacre on the front lines.
Oh boy, this video intro is going to get me in trouble.
Oh no, that might be
Why did we read it?
anti-Zionist.
We have everything set in play for what looks like an armed invasion of Iran here, as members of Congress and specific military movements highlight.
The invasion is set, readied, and prepared to happen at any moment now. All of this, as we're being told there's negotiations that some people are saying do not exist and are faked and, quote, debunked. Now, we're hearing a lot of different kind of scuttlebutt about the Iranians wanting to end this war, not wanting to end this war, saying no, as people are having some serious doubts and questions about some of the statements that Donald Trump is making, as people are saying, well, he's just saying that to postpone in order to bring on this invasion and to calm down the markets before it actually happens. As some people are saying, it could happen as early as this Friday. A good day, not to, quote, startle the markets there, but is this more than just market manipulation? Is there a deal? Is there not a deal? Well, again, all the signals do highlight major maneuvers and moves being made right now, specifically to prepare for an invasion, which I think is dumb and stupid. We'll get into that and a lot more, especially with all the latest developments in this Iran conflict in this particular video. If you appreciate that, subscribe. Click the notification button. We greatly appreciate it. Now, Congresswoman Nancy Mace has been coming out, and her tweet here is concerning, right? Because it kind of hints and suggests that the invasion is going to happen. She says, just walked out of a House Armed Service briefing on Iran. Let me repeat, I will not support troops on the ground in Iran. Even more so after this briefing. What happened during this briefing? As CNN correctly puts it, hey, all the pieces are in the region for a ground invasion.
Well, Audie, whatever the president ultimately decides about a ground operation in Iran, all the pieces are now in the region to carry one out. And it's not just the...
Now, is this a negotiation tactic? I hope so. Or is this something that has already been pre-planned? As, of course, there's Iranian spokespeople coming out being like, I don't believe this kind of talk about peace talks that Trump is talking about. They're seeing this as what previously happened to them before the 12-day war, this kind of lowering of them into defenseless posture. As, of course, there was a disinformation campaign run by Trump and Bibi before the 12-day war. Negotiations were still happening. According to the British, the negotiations were moving along pretty well, and there was a good deal at play here, and then the United States just started to bomb them. If you're the Iranians and you're going through all of these negotiations, which have been used as a way to lull you into being more into lowering your defenses, you're going to be skeptical here.
1,000 paratroopers, you have Marines deployed to the region, and then all the forces, the air transport, etc., that one would require to put troops on the ground, whether that be, you've heard the discussion of Karg Island, which is so central to Iran's energy industry, or perhaps along the shores of the Strait of Hormuz to secure the Strait of Hormuz. We don't know, and ultimately it's up to the president. But
now this would be a disaster. This would be an outright disaster, as now there's talks about sending J.D. Vance to Pakistan. Pakistan has been playing a key role here with a lot of these negotiations, as it might be J.D. Vance that could be sent on a plane, and as soon as he's in Pakistan, that's when we know some of these talks are more legitimate here, as Iran has allegedly said that it will not negotiate with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner let Bibi sleep in his bedroom when he was a teenager. Quote, deeming them, as the UK did,
so they're butt buddies,
foreign agents serving Bibi, instead demanding to negotiate with J.D. Vance. The VP, who was positioned himself as against the Iran war, but supportive of the president, now has the chance to negotiate an end of the Iran conflict. If that happens, people are like, well, this is convenient, as people are skeptical of this themselves. The move would, quote, undoubtedly be good PR for Vance, who has been the subject of attacks from across the GOP, painting him as both too hawkish and too dovish. Through the negotiations, Vance gets a chance to cement himself as the pro-peace successor to Trump, standing apart from the hawkish Rubio and Hegseth. Trump came out and was like, yeah, Hegseth and Raising Cane don't want this conflict to be over. Now, according to Axios, Iranian officials have told mediators, Pakistan, Egypt, and Turkey, that the U.S. military movements and Trump's decision to deploy major troop reinforcements have increased their suspicion that his peace proposal is just a ruse. And, of course, it has happened before to them. And they, of course, are dealing with a situation where it's like, who do you trust? Who do you believe here? Now, the New York Times today is also reporting that Iran dismissed Trump's ceasefire offer, but they signaled that they're open to talks. As, again, I think a lot of people are saying, let's not consider what Trump is saying, let's consider what Trump is doing, and Trump is sending in the troops. That's a big signal, right? The New York Times writes, the Pentagon is sending more troops to the region, even as President Trump seemed to endorse Pakistan's offer to broker negotiations. As Tehran has confirmed, it received the offer, but calls it maximalist, as the Iranians rejected the peace plan that they also called excessive, and they issued 5 conditions to end this particular conflict. Now, breaking points, and Saigar and Jetty have some very interesting insights into all of this. Before getting into that, Anna.
So, like everything else, though, you can see where it's going, right? Not going so good. You know, Iran's not on its knees. They're not begging for negotiations. In fact, it's quite the opposite. You know, it's like, well, why would we trust you? Israeli terrorists raid village, search houses in Syria's Quneitra. So they're still creating more terrorism in the region. Israeli terrorists advanced on Monday into southern Syria's Quneitra province. Why? You got a new interim Syrian government that ain't going to do anything about it because they're totally loyal to King Bibi in the latest violation of the Arab country's sovereignty. Syria DB said the Israeli terrorists moved into the village of al-Sanda al-Shukla in the Quneitra countryside, raiding several houses in the area. The raid came despite agreement reached by Syria and the Israeli state on the 6th of January. Well, what are you going to do about it? Oh, nothing. To establish a U.S. supervised aimed at coordinating. Yeah, like you could trust him. Yeah. Syrians say the continued Israeli violations are undermining efforts to restore stability and hindering government attempts to attract investment to improve the country's economic conditions. Well, that's just it. It's going to be an Israeli occupation forever. You know, and that's just it. Others are seated that, well, all these nations did cave to the U.S. pressure except for Iran. That's one thing you could say. You know, where Bashar al-Assad went wrong is when he agreed to the ceasefire, and guess what? The enemy, they just kept on rebuilding and getting more. See, Iran's not agreeing to any ceasefire. They want an end to the war, meaning that the U.S. occupation has to end altogether, and they have to get out of the bases. And Iran also wants the U.S. to admit that it had lost. You know, so neither one's going to admit defeat. The war continues. As we are about to enter into the end of the first month and the beginning of the second month, which also happens to go into the Passover. Passover's next week, as you know. Iran arrests over 90 operatives linked to Iran international network amid Israeli-U.S. war. So there we go. You know, yeah, that's something that you will never be returned for, you know, if you're spying on them. Iranian security forces arrested more than 90 individuals with ties to the Iran international network, knowledgeable sources told Press TV. Arrests make a significant development in measures against a hostile media outlet amid the Israeli-American terrorism against the country that entered its 25th day on Tuesday. Arrests carried out across multiple provinces over the recent days target what authorities describe as traitors linked to the terrorist network. So, like everything else, yeah, and they're calling it what it is. Iranian government labeled the network a terrorist organization, which it is. Arrests came amid the Israeli-American war of aggression against the Islamic Republic, which has claimed nearly 1,300 lives so far, most of them civilians. Yeah, because they mostly bombed civilian infrastructure. And so, like everything else, though, Tucker Carlson has also been blowing the lid off of their plans as well. You know, it just, he's been going all in lately, as this video also goes into. And, of course, this guy is a comedian similar to Steve Dorr, just a little different humor than Steve Dorr. I think that's his name. Yeah, or Jimmy Dore, I meant to say. Yeah, a little different humor than the Jimmy Dore show, but nonetheless, uses a little bit of humor, you know, as well in his videos, but still breaking down stuff, right, as we get into this some more.
They're so cute and just absolutely innocent when they're babies, but in all actuality, they're
babies are babies, right?
Are putting these babies' futures on the line.
Each other, but we've had very strong talks. Mr. Witkoff and Mr. Kushner had them. They went, I would say, perfectly.
Doesn't look like it, as the situation looks like it's devolving right now. Along with all of the crazy AI slop out there, that's hard to discern fact from fiction. What in the world is really going on here? As a lot of people are having terrifying revelations about the future of this conflict that some people believe will get a lot more worse, as there are some price and energy shocks ahead of us, according to some analysts, as the official version of events are taking a big twist and turn here. As previously, there was a lot of censorship, especially with what was happening inside of Bibi's home country, and now we have the opposite of that, as of course we went from total media blackout to, hey, look what the Iranians are doing to us. Why is that happening? As of course,
yeah, gotta play that victim role.
Details about the central role that Bibi was playing here, as some people are saying he's the one calling the shots here, and Donald Trump is not. Now, some of these people are just trying to obfuscate any kind of responsibility from Donald Trump. What's the truth of this kind of larger accusation? Let's look into it. Let's get into it. As of course, there's some new breaking news type of information that I think adds
it's not Fox News
to this debate right now.
Tucker Carlson used to be on them.
Video.
That's what's funny about it.
Of videos, subscribe, click the notification button. As of course, we greatly appreciate all the time.
But
that you spend with
Tucker Carlson hasn't been on Fox News in a while.
The biggest, most important update is that Trump's ultimatum that he announced on Saturday and then unannounced Monday morning, which some people are calling market manipulation, was extended for 5 days. That proclamation was that the U.S. and Bibi are going to bomb the crap out of their energy infrastructure, which already partly they did. It looks like we got new reports saying that they're still doing it, which makes it seem like this 5-day pause against the energy infrastructure of Iran is, according to one commentator on Al Jazeera, the same exact time that it takes thousands of American troops to get there.
And these talks led Trump to announce a 5-day pause in attacks on Iranian energy infrastructure.
So we know about the ground invasion.
The amount of time it takes for thousands of Marines to arrive in that area. Whether that's a coincidence or not is not clear.
It's probably a negotiation tactic, right? And Donald Trump likes to negotiate very strongly, but there's a lot of serious questions, especially with what the British are coming out and saying right now about how these negotiations were thwarted and stopped from progressing.
Trump made this announcement before the markets opened, so stocks went up and oil prices went down. That achieved one goal of his. So he might be sincere. There is speculation that he might be backing down from his threat to attack Iran's energy infrastructure, that he was just trying to calm markets, or it could simply be strategic ambiguity, an effort to keep Iran off its balance as to what the U.S. endgame.
Keeping people off their balance is essentially what Trump is doing. He's really good at that right now. Of course, the American people, the American troops, the American politics. What? Operation, mission, what is going on here? As a lot of people are saying, it's kind of ironic how this war went from regime change to now just reopening up the Strait of Hormuz. As people are saying, this is probably the most idiotic war that they have personally seen. As now, there's also questions about the USS Gerald R. Ford, a multi-billion-dollar aircraft carrier that just left the fight because of a alleged laundry fire. Some people are saying, I'm not buying that, as it is now going to be repaired. As some people are saying, there could be a possibility, as of course we have seen, obfuscation of the true kind of scale of this conflict. Until now, where Bibi's government is kind of doing the opposite of that, as we are also hearing reports of more energy infrastructure, according to Tucker Carlson, being hit after Donald Trump said that he wouldn't hit them. Now, was it Donald Trump? Was it the U.S.? Was it Bibi? As Tim Pool also is connecting the dots here, saying, I'm sure it's just a coincidence that in 2019, the same day a U.S. oil refinery exploded, Trump called off strikes on Iran. And in 2026, the same day, Trump announced postponing strikes on Iran, and an oil refinery exploded in Texas. So a major oil refinery exploded. As he says, honestly, it's just a coincidence. What do I know? Again,
and Texas refinery is an inside job.
Infrastructure in the region is being hit right now, specifically also in Qatar, as Qatar now is also involved in all of this, as this conflict surely is expanding here, as it's not just Bibi that some analysts are saying wants to continue and expand this war, it's also other countries like Saudi Arabia. We'll tell you why in a little bit. Before we do, we wanted to tell you about this month.
So, like everything else, though, as it continues to escalate, right? Hey, man, you know, they can gaslight all they want to, but the facts are there. You just got to look for them, right? That's all that we do here at Great Millstone. We look at the facts. We report both wars and rumors of wars. You know, as Yahushua said, that those things would be in place as they merge towards a global new world order, which, you know, was given to John, and he saw it, that they would eventually implant everybody with a chip, with a device. You know, everybody would have to have this implant, known as the MOTB. Everybody would have to have it in order to be able to buy or sell. That they would crash the markets through this war, you know, and everybody, both small and great, would have to receive it. That's what John saw as the destruction came, because the war got bigger and it went nuclear, which was the cup of wrath of his indignation being poured out on all those who took the implantable microchip, as well as those that had also, just never repented in general. John saw all those things. Gulf states find land routes to circumvent Iran attacks against Hormuz shipping. Alternative land-based supply routes are being opened for Gulf states as Iran continues to target shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, well, because the Strait of Hormuz belongs to them. Gulf states now opening new land routes to ensure supplies reach through their countries, and exports continue amid Iranian attacks against shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, as governments stress that they have enough water, food, and medicine stockpiles to last months. The strategic waterway has been largely shut off since the war began on the 28th of February, and multiple vessels trying to cross it have been attacked. Tehran has warned countries siding in the conflict with its enemies will not be allowed to access. Iran's ability to choke off traffic to the strait, the conduit for the fifth global oil and liquefied natural gas, has emerged as a major threat to the global economy. So like everything else, though, they're going to try to go by land, which still takes longer, but at least that's a way, right? But they're still trying to retake the Strait of Hormuz, ultimately, which is what this next ground invasion is all about. They actually think that they're going to take Karg Island from Iran. And Iran's ready for them. Their best military has actually been deployed there. So while the U.S. is talking about deployment, Iran's already positioned them there. Iran sets 5 conditions to end the war with the U.S. and Israeli state, which, of course, none of the things that they're asking for is actually being adhered to, right? Hebrew media reported on Monday that Iran set 5 conditions to agree to a deal with the U.S. to end the war that has been ongoing since late February. According to Channel 12, Iran outlined a set of strict official demands to end the conflict as part of indirect talks by U.S. President Trump. Iran is calling for the closure of U.S. military bases across the region, as well as financial compensation for damage suffered during the war. That's just the tip of it. They're not going to agree to that, so we know that there is no pause in any of this. I got one more here, and this is a big one from another brother. If you're in the military, you will have to fight Yahweh Shai and the angels. Because guess what? In the midst of World War III, well, they are fighting, Iran, Russia, and all those other regions, right? Yahweh Shai and the angels are going to show up, and they're going to have to go after them too, which is why Donald Trump created the Space Force, because like everything else, so these people were deceived into thinking that they were, little green men or aliens from outer space. These are in fact the angels of the Most High, and they will have to fight them. So they will have to fight Yahweh Shai and the angels. So if you're in the military, that's who you're going to be fighting against, right? But you already know who prevails, right? So we'll get into that. Revelation chapter 16. Because this is a pretty important one. Because like everything else, though. Well, we know that the MOTB is also, going to be mandated very soon. Revelation chapter 16, verse 1. And I heard a loud voice from the temple saying to the 7 angels, "Go and pour out on the earth the 7 bowls of the wrath and indignation from Yahweh." So what is that wrath of indignation? Nuclear destruction, and that's when the angels of the Most High and the Son of Man appear. And they will also be destroying. So the first angel went and poured out his bowl on the earth, and loathsome and malignant sores came upon the people who had received the mark of the beast and worshipped his image, those that conformed to the New World Order, and took the mandated implant. That's the first. So like everything else, though, And here's the key area right here, because you see the key word there. But verse 12, the 6th angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up, so that the the way would be prepared for the coming of the kings from the east. That is this war that we're in right now. Now I saw 3 loathsome spirits like frogs leaping out of the mouth of the dragon, which is of course the military power, which is part of Great Satan, as is in parentheses, Great Satan being America, Babylon the Great, and from the mouth of the beast, which is, the whore riding the beast, and from the mouth of the false prophet, because you already heard it in this war, that they are fighting for Armageddon, to prepare for Armageddon. That's what Hegseth has already told them. So you see where this false prophet is, that it is talking about Babylon the Great. It is talking about America, where the beast and the false prophet are. As you break it all down. For they are actually the spirits of demons performing miraculous signs, and they go out to the kings of the entire inhabited earth. To gather them together for a war of the great day of Yahweh the Almighty. And what's that talking about? That's talking about now. You heard Hegseth announce it. See, that's prophecy in the making right here. Revelation chapter 16. It's happening. Behold, I am coming like a thief. Blessed is he who stays awake and keeps his clothes. What's that mean? Meaning that you're ready for the return of Yahweh Shai. That it is, stay spiritually ready for the Most High Yahweh Shai's return. So that he will not be naked, spiritually unprepared, and men will not see his shame. Basically, you're prepared to meet Yahweh Shai as he comes to gather. And they gathered the kings and the armies of the world together at the place which in Hebrew is called Armageddon, which means the mountain of troops. And that mountain of troops is right there in that valley. Things are about to be a lot bigger, right? Then the 7th angel poured out his bowl into the air, and a loud voice came out of the temple from the throne of Yahweh, saying, it is done, it's over. It is all accomplished, it has come. So that's the day of the Lord, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. So, we're seeing it. And verse 18 really tells you how it comes. And there were flashes of lightning and loud rumbles and pearls of thunder by way of that nuclear destruction. And there was a massive earthquake, nothing like it has ever occurred since mankind originated on the earth. So severe and far-reaching was that earthquake. Because like everything else though, that's what pounded Babylon the Great, causing the great earthquake. The great city was split into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell. And Yahweh kept in mind Babylon the Great, to give her the cup of the wine of his fierce and furious wrath. Then every island fled away, and no mountains could be found. And that is by way of that nuclear destruction, when it becomes a lake of fire. And giant hailstones as heavy as talon fell from the sky on the people, and people reviled and spoke abusively of Yahweh for the plague of the hail, because the plague was so very great. Yeah, they were cursing them out, because like everything else, so, Babylon the Great was destroyed, alas. And that's what's coming. As this video goes into, they're going to have to fight Yahweh Shai and the angels, and they're going to lose, and they're going to be cursing them out, as I just read here. So hopefully this has been edifying. I'm going to play this video and close this out. For that I want to say Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, Wa Abba Babal. Brakatam, Jehovah Elect, Shalom.
Alright, hey, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakadash, and double honors unto the apostles, and elders of Great Millstone, and as well as the men that taught them, and peace and blessings to all you walking out there, who pushing this word with all truth and sincerity, and as well as all you believers out there who believe in the gospel. And it's the brother Kwara Abad from the GMX Houston Count. And I want to go into another lesson, and Lord willing, they do be edifying. And, as always throughout the week, it's a lucky for the background noise. There's a lot of construction going on around, but hopefully it ain't too much. As soon as I come out now, I want to get louder, but, nevertheless, Lord willing, is like I said, this lesson could be edifying. We get straight to it. But what I want to go into is, something I was thinking about this morning, as the spirit of the times is right now, is war. Scripture saying Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, there's a time and place for everything. You know, and as we know how the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, get down, he'll begin one prophecy, for example, like the MOTB, that'll be hot in the news, and digital currency, that'll be hot in the news for a couple of weeks, then that'll, eventually die down. Then there's war and things happening and bombs and drones, and that'll die down, right? And then there's another disease, right? So we're in the spirit of war right now, the times of war, which is going to lead to many other things, harder economy, more people struggling, right? But the thing I was thinking about as far as the spirit of war, just waking up watching videos, it's just the fact of, when you consider the Lord's coming, Yahweh's second coming, who the world ignorantly call and know as Jesus. Now that the Lord has opened up our eyes, we understand the mystery that everybody been wanting to know, when he gonna come back. Now we don't know the exact day, week, month, or year, but we know we in that very time, and it's gonna happen soon. And we know how it's gonna play out. You can ask a Christian, well, how the day of the Lord gonna be, how's it gonna be? And they say, I don't know. The closest they may get is Revelation, what that is, 19, when they say he gonna come back from the heavens, but they say on a white horse, right? But we could tell, the Lord will come back, Yahweh Shai gonna make his second coming during World War III. During World War III, and look, World War III, the beginning stage is here to show us we in that very time, man. In that very time. The Lord will come back during World War III, and we're gonna go into a prophecy of that in a few. But the point I was thinking about is that you have a lot of people, thinking like you gotta die to meet your maker. Which that's true. Even if you die, your spirit go up to meet the one who created it, Yahweh. The Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and Yahweh Shai. But when the times to when the Lord's second coming is here, the maker, Yahweh Shai, because he created everything else, right? He coming to meet the world. You see, he coming to meet the world, and the thing that I was thinking about is you're gonna have these people who sign up for the war, who get drafted and get shipped over there to the east to fight in World War III. These people was created. You have people that was created to go to war just to fight Yahweh Shai, man. So even if we may have family members, if y'all got family members out there, cousins, brothers, uncles, aunties, right, in the army, in the military, and they still gonna be there once World War III really ramp up. Trump talking about putting boots on the ground, and these things happen. Guess what? And they stay over there. Guess what? When Yahweh Shai coming is here, they gonna be used for the fulfillment of the part of the story of Yahweh Shai destroying all nations during World War III when he come back. So it may be some family members of us who gonna personally die by Yahweh Shai. But see, we close to that time. They're talking about a draft right now, sending troops. We know this thing. This might not be the main escalation that's gonna lead to missile shot off, right? But what's going on in Iran? It just ain't gonna stop. It ain't just gonna stop. Some have started. It ain't just gonna stop. But let me get this real quick. This shouldn't be long. This is I'm gonna get Joel the 3rd chapter. Once how the Lord gathered these nations real quick. But it will be a draft. It will be a draft. You have a draft in America. You have these other nations eventually sending troops, all for the purpose of, again, these people gonna fight the Lord. Who would ever thought they gonna, you might have a Christian. He a Christian believing, and he in the military. He got a tattoo of Jesus on him and everything, and he gonna fight the one he believe in at his coming. Come on, man. But this is Joel 3. And I'm going to start at Joel 3, and I'm going to start at 1. It says, for behold, in those days and at that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. So when the Lord begin to save his people out of captivity, these are the things that's going to be happening. It says, and I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. You see? The valley of Yahweh Shabbat. You see the valley of Yahweh Shabbat. For what? War. And as we know, we get close to being taken out of captivity, World War III is happening. So we see both of these things playing out. Let's continue. It says, and I will also gather all nations, Joel 3 and 2, and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh Shabbat, right? Because it's the time the Lord going to judge these nations by using his son. Especially the nation's military, by using his son, man. That's the whole, look at the day of the Lord, the day of Yahweh Shai will be a day like we have never seen. It's going to be everything that's going to already be happening in Jacob's trouble. Leviathan going to be out, everything going to be out. And then all nations going to be fighting. Stop fighting each other and start fighting the Lord, man. We're going to read that. So again, if you had these people get drafted or already in the military and you be sent over there, you are used in the movie to fight Yahweh Shai. Let's continue. It says, Joel 3 and 2, it says, and I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. It says, verse 9, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up well, over there to the east, as they would call the Middle East, the Levant region. You got some of them around the deserts of Arabia, stationing themselves, positioning themselves for war. Hey, the scriptures already say you have, what that is? It said in the scriptures too about let me see, drying up. The Euphrates drying up for the warriors to pass through, right? All these things are going on. The Euphrates drying up, so on and so forth. But they gather themselves over there for war, so don't be surprised if we actually have to have, not we, but America actually have to have a draft. YNs, get ready. This is what you've been waiting on. Right? This is what you've been waiting on, all you patriotic Edomites, right? This is what you've been waiting on. You see? It says, let them come up. It says, and beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, and let the weak say, I'm strong. Assemble yourselves together. It says, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about, and thither cause the mighty ones to come down. Oh Lord, matter of fact, let me get this, because the scriptures do kind of, in a way, go into it, not in a way, but go into a draft, in a sense. It's 2 Ezra 16. I'm going to read this one in the GNT. 2 Ezra 16 and verse, now this is going into Jacob's trouble, right? 2 Ezra 16 and verse 27. And in GNT it says, and a person will long to see the face of another person, of another human being, or even to hear another person's voice, right? Everybody will be on a run in Jacob's trouble. People will be looking for comfort, somebody to talk to, somebody to help. It says, and only 10 will be left out of a whole city, and in the countryside only 2 who have hidden in a forest. Hey, running from troops, running from newly created creatures, running from other people trying to eat you, and it says, now check this out. It says, verse 31, that is how it will be in those days. 3 or 4 will be missed by the soldiers who search through the houses to kill everyone. The land will be left empty. The fields will be overgrown with briars. The roads and paths will be covered with weeds and thorns, because there will be no sheep to graze along them. Right? You ain't got nobody walking on the sidewalks. You ain't got Issachar there. The landscaping companies cutting grass. Right? You see, all hell will be broke loose. And it goes on to say this, and young women will be mourning because there is no one to marry them. There ain't no young bachelors out here. Let's find out where these men will be at. All these young bachelors, all these YNs, right? These chads. It says young women will be mourning because there is no one to marry them. And wives will be mourning because they have lost their husbands. And daughters will be mourning because there is no one to help them. So in other words, women, whether older women, young women, or girls, little girls, all will be mourning because a male authority ain't going to be here on the earth like that. Let's read on why. It says, because all the young men will be killed in the war draft. They will be shipped off in the war. Whether they go die here in Civil War in America or go over there in war and fight Yahweh Shai, man, we're going to get that in a few, and fight Yahweh Shai. It says, and all the young men will be killed in a war, and all the married men will die in a famine. You see that? And any other men that's left over here, the scripture said in Jeremiah 30, they're going to be like women, weak. But let's get this in 2 Ezra 13 real quick about Yahweh Shai coming back during World War III. Because the Lord gave Ezra a vision of it, and this is how we know these things, man. First through the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, but again, it's written. It's written. In 2 Ezra 13 and verse 1, it says, and it came to pass after 7 days. Now, often in the scriptures, the prophets, if they have a dream, they ask the angel, ask the Lord, and they'll tell us what they seen first, what they heard first, and then the angel or the Lord will break it down. So Ezra is describing what he's seen first, and then we'll get the understanding of it. Right? Pretty much he break it down, in him explaining it, but we'll just read it. It says, and it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night. So look, as we read this, remember, if somebody in the military or just got drafted or go to war, this is what they're going to be participating in the latter days when Yahweh Shai come back. This is what they're going to be participating in. It says, 2 Ezra 13 and 1, and it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof, and I beheld, and lo, that man, the Yahweh Shai, waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And that's the angels coming with him in those chariots, the UFOs. It says, and when he turned his countenance to look, all things trembled that were seen under him. Right? There's an aerial attack. They're coming from the heavens. And everybody who look up that was seen under him, they're going to tremble when they see a so-called angelic, pissed off, dark-skinned man. You see? Black man, as they will call. With pure power. People are already scared of so-called black men in this society, but one who's standing on a UFO. Come on, man. They will tremble. It goes on to say, and all things trembled that were seen under him. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice. And it's talking about he will be shooting fire from his chariot. It says, like as the earth felleth when it filleth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, so after he seen Yahweh Shai come, he said, then I looked, and there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of heaven to subdue that man that came out to sea. And we're going to see what this means. It says you have people from the four corners come together and try to get this man. Let's keep reading. It says, but I beheld, but I kept looking, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew upon it. And it's Yahweh Shai standing on top of his chariot. Right? They say ghost riding the whip, right? He gonna be spirit riding the whip. You see, he gonna be spirit riding the whip on top of the chariot, man, for all to see. All eyes shall see him. Come on now. If he in it, how everybody gonna see him? Come on, man. But Yahweh Shai gonna be standing on top of the chariot. It says, but I would have seen a region or the place where out the hill was graven, and I could not. And that's to tell you it's gonna be a big chariot, not just like a disc shape like on a movie. You gotta have some type of length and depth to it, height to it, for Ezra to liken it unto a mountain, man. It says, and after this I beheld and lo, and then I was still looking, where Ezra said, and I was still looking and seeing, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, yet durst fight. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth, as it had been a blast of fire, right? And out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. And they were mixed all together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and a great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude, which was prepared to fight. These same WW3 soldiers that the Lord said, prepare yourselves to fight. We're going to go over there to the east, right? The valley of Yahweh Shaphat, Yahweh's judgment. You see, as they gather themselves right now, you're going to have a draft. So whoever get drafted or in any of these nations' war, you most likely going to be a part of this scene right here. Getting destroyed by Yahweh Shai himself. Personally, by the Lord himself. You was created to die by the hand of Yahweh Shai himself, man. Think about that. So if you in the war, you got family members, man, look, but it is already written. See, it's already written. YNs, right, it makes sense. If they have a draft and YNs go over there, right, Yahweh Shai need to kill them niggas himself. You see? All these women who want to be men, right, let them go over there too. Let's continue. It says, which was prepared to fight and burn them up, so that upon a sudden and innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived but only dust and a smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. Now let's go to the breakdown of it. Now this is what the angel telling them, verse 25. It says, this is the meaning of the vision, and whereas thou saw a man coming up from the midst of the sea, which Yahweh shall come from the heavens, it says, the same is he whom the Most High has kept has kept a great season, which by his own self, matter of fact, I'm going to get the GNT now. 2nd Ezra 13, I got to go. 2nd Ezra 13, GNT, right? So remember what Ezra's seen. Now we about to get the breakdown of it. What that mean? In 2nd Ezra 13 and verse 25 in the GNT. It says, the man you saw represents the one whom the Most High has kept ready for many ages, the Yahweh Shai. It says he will free the world he created and establish the new order for those who survive. So it will be a new world order after this chaos. But it's going to be a Yahweh Shai and the Israelites, the throne of David. It says, now check this out. It says, this means that the time is coming near when the Most High will begin to free the people on earth. At that time, everyone will be close to panic. They will begin to make war against one another, city against city, region against region, nation against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And when that happens, the signs I told you about earlier will take place. And then I will reveal my son. Come on, man. Whom you saw as a man coming out of the sea, coming out of the heavens. And when they hear his voice, check this out, all nations will leave their own territory, forget their wars with one another, and come together in one great crowd, too large to count, as you seen in your dream, and the nations will unite with the single purpose of making war with my son. Come on. So World War III gonna be going on, shooting drones and missiles and all these things, and probably tanks over there in the Middle East, and then Yahweh Shai go up here. Like I said in Habakkuk 2, over there, I believe, like I said, over Teman, just like it was when he came to get a law, to make his way to Mount Sinai. He gonna appear over there in the east, win World War III, and come over and gather. And as he over here coming to America, he gonna come gather his elect, man. And the final finale of all that will be watching America burn, looking over top with his elect, looking down in the chariot of America burn after he just won World War III. Because it's gonna start in the east. He said, as the light shining from the east to the west, so shall also my coming be. He gonna pop up in the east. He gonna pop up in the east, win World War III, and make his way over here to the west, and hover over America while it burn, man. That's the story right there. See, we know how long will come back. We just don't know the exact date. Come on, man. It says too large to count, right? As you saw in your dream. And it says that he will take his stand on the top of Mount Zion, and New Jerusalem will be seen by everyone, the elect and beamed up in a chariot, and it will be completed and fully built, just as your dream. You saw the mountain carved out, but not by human hands. So Yahweh shall go easily win World War III. But again, if you have people who in the draft now, that's what their purpose is, to fight the Lord in war and to lose. So they will be used for Yahweh Shai to make his statement on earth. In every movie you have a gangster, that dude in the movie. As soon as it start off, they do something to put fear in everybody. So okay, this is the guy right here in the movie, right? Yahweh Shai, that's gonna be the scene that's gonna put fear in everybody for him to set him up to be the ruler of the world. But I'm gonna end it right there. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise to Yahweh. By Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Chakwadash, and with that, Shalom.